Okay, something I want to read out for you today and then give you a little bit of analysis as I kind of stealth. I could almost be camouflaged, couldn't I, in this superb merino wool retro cycling jersey I've got on. I could just kind of merge into the background and sit here for 15 fucking minutes not saying anything. Not that that would really be a very worthwhile thing to do. So I won't. What I will do instead is to read out this article, which is about, it pertains to the UK. But I think that the points that it makes and the arguments and the points that I want to make in response to it would pertain certainly to any sort of first world Western country, maybe a long way beyond that as well. It's about education, primary education, younger children and their performance, and about the performance of pupils of more wealthy parents versus pupils of poorer parents. So let me read you the article from the BBC. And then I want to give you my analysis of this and why I think this should give us pause for thought, because this is indicative, what I'm going to read you here, of what I think is a pretty common concern at the moment, which is that we seem to have these sights set on social goals and there are assumptions being made. Assumptions are made in this article by the writers of the article and also by the writers of the article about what the rest of us must be thinking. The assumption is that we're all on the same line as them, on the same page as them. And I think there are way too many assumptions being made. Dangerous assumptions and assumptions that actually fly in the face of what are some other seemingly equally worthy social goals. They just don't seem to fit alongside one another. If that's enough to intrigue you, I'll outline all of that. Let me just read you the article first so that you can have your thoughts on what I'm reading and what's been said on the BBC here, and then I'll give you my little analysis. Okay, so it was titled Primary School Tables, Poor Pupils Won't Catch Up for 50 Years, and it was by the School League Tables team at the BBC News. As new primary school data is released, BBC analysis suggests it will take 50 years to close the achievement gap between England's rich and poor pupils. If the pace of change remains the same as it has done since 2011, poor pupils will not catch up until 2070, it shows. This year, 51% of the poorest pupils reach the expected level in their national end of primary school tests. This compares with 70% of their better off peers, leaving a gap of 19 percentage points. Before I read out the next bit chronologically, just let me point out that this sort of poorer pupils versus better off peers isn't sort of pupils of working class parents versus middle class parents. This is what it writes at the end of the article. In fact, children are counted as disadvantaged if they are eligible for the pupil premium. That is, if they have been eligible for free school meals at any point during the past 6 years or have been in care continuously for at least 6 months. Okay, obviously if you're in care, there's some serious social issues at home. If you've been eligible for free school meals, that doesn't mean that you've got working class parents who are working. It means that the financial situation at home is far more parlous than that. Either your parents are not working, maybe not capable of getting work, or the work they're getting is unskilled work and doesn't pay enough to be able to get you there for your school meals. Generally, okay, if you live in London, the situation might be a bit different because it just costs so much to live there. But that's the situation. This isn't a sort of working class, middle class gap, just so you're aware of that, because otherwise you could listen to that and think this. So after that initial opening piece, it then gives you a couple of tables. It gives you tables there showing in reading, writing and mathematics how fewer disadvantaged children are making the grades. And then it shows you their extrapolation, and it's a somewhat staggering extrapolation there. How you can take that tiny little bit of graph and extend it all that way and hope to be within an order of magnitude, I think, of any kind of decent estimate, I have no idea. But anyway, that's what they have done. And then they went on to write this. The achievement gap has shrunk every year since 2011, but at a slow pace. If this pace continues, the gap in attainment at this early age will not close until at least 2070, BBC analysis reveals. To assess this gap, the government uses pupils' results in reading and maths tests. These are ranked from best to worst, as if they're the results in a race. On average, poorer pupils rank worse. The difference in average ranking between poorer and better off children is the disadvantage gap. The current gap shows that poorer children would sit 2.9 places further back on average in a ranking of 20 poorer and 20 better off children. School Standards Minister Nick Gibbs said, standards are rising in our schools, with 86% of schools now rated good or outstanding as of August 18, compared with 60% in 2010. And these statistics show that the gap between disadvantaged pupils and their peers has closed by 13% since 2011. In 2011, the disadvantaged gap was 3.3 places. It is now 2.9 places, having closed by 13% or 0.4 places. I hope that is clear to everybody there. So, when you first read that and take that on face value, you could think, yeah, it's good that we can close this gap between pupils of more wealthy parents and less wealthy parents, because we want a kind of minimum level. That should be the point of a welfare state with regard to education, of course, that everybody gets a minimum level. On the face of it, superficially, you could see some reasons why having wealthier parents would help. Simply by the dint of them being wealthy, you can pay for extra tuition, you can make sure that your kids get the nutritional requirements that they need to feed their brains, etc., etc., etc. But I think there's quite a bit more to it than this. And I think, interestingly, this article makes three fundamental assumptions and kind of assumes that those assumptions are shared by the viewer, by the reader. And maybe as I was reading it, I kind of did get sucked into that before I started to think about what was actually taking place here. These assumptions, I think, is that rich children, or children of more wealthy parents, parents that aren't on their financial knees in actual fact, perform better primarily because their parents are more wealthy. Okay, that there's a causal link, effectively, a direct causal link between those two things. I think that's a fundamental assumption that's being made here. It's not questioned or challenged at all in this article. It's just assumed. As a follow-on from that a reduction in this gap would therefore be a good thing, and that finally, that in 2070 we'll reach the golden place, won't we? We'll reach this utopia there where disadvantaged children do perform just as well as advantaged children, which sounds like a sort of contradiction in terms. Surely the very fact that you've got a disadvantage would necessarily mean that you're not going to do as well, otherwise it's not really a disadvantage, is it? But anyway, that is sort of like the utopia, and when we've reached that, we will have achieved something good. That will be indicative that society is somehow better, and I challenge that fundamentally, and you will understand why in a minute. Okay, so the fundamental claim that's being made here, I think, is that there's a causal link between wealth and higher achievement in education. Wealthier parents, their children perform better, and therefore it's just assumed that because there's this correlation that there is a causal link. But of course there is an alternative, isn't there, which is that both the wealth and the higher achievement could both be outcomes, could both be conclusions as a result of the same cause. And this is where I'm kind of going with this. Because it seems to me that one of the reasons that people are more wealthy in this respect is that they have better jobs, they have better sources of income. And the reason that they have better jobs and better sources of income is because they are more intelligent individuals, and therefore in a meritocracy that pays people more who are more talented, and who pays people more for having better jobs, more skilled jobs, or more skilled higher roles within the same organisation and performing the same job, having the extra intelligence and gifts and confidence and charisma to become a supervisor or a middle manager or whatever. It rewards you, remunerates you for doing those things. So greater intelligence is liable to be a factor, and also greater motivation, perhaps. If you are an apathetic individual, then I would suggest you are more likely not to succeed. Okay, what I'm proposing to you is that you would expect people who have decent jobs to be more likely to be higher up that intelligence and that motivation scale than people whose children have to have free school meals or people who are in a situation where their home life breaks down entirely, perhaps due to drugs, perhaps due to alcohol, perhaps due to domestic violence, and the children end up in care, which are the two characteristics in which they judged people as disadvantaged. And so this greater intelligence and motivation is the causal factor, and the conclusions, the results of that, are both wealth and higher achievement in education, rather than the wealth itself being the causal factor for higher achievement in education. That's totally at odds with how this is being outlined on this BBC article. So why is all this interesting to me? Why is all this worthy of a video? I'll tell you why. You only have to go back, I think, to the 11th of this month, the 11th of December. And the BBC, the same news organisation, published an article looking at young people's concerns with regard to social mobility, that they don't believe there is as much social mobility, and that in some ways maybe they have less social mobility than their parents had. Again, assumptions being made that social mobility is a good thing. Okay, do you think social mobility is a good thing? I happen to think that it's a good thing. Okay, but here's the problem. I propose to you, the greater the amount of social mobility we have in our society, the harder it is for disadvantaged children to achieve as much as advantaged children. Now, why would that be? I'll explain why. What does social mobility mean? Social mobility means that you can progress through to the sort of upper working class, lower middle, upper middle class earnings brackets, right? Not based on the wealth of your parents, not based on the social status of your parents, but in a meritocratic way based on your own skills. So the more meritocratic a society and the greater the degree of social mobility, the greater the differentiation between these different spheres, between the middle class, between the upper working class and the lower working class and the not at all working class, is going to be in terms of intelligence and in terms of motivation. After all, if there was zero social mobility at all, then you could be as apathetic as you liked and you'd still remain in that middle class social bracket or that upper working class and in the same kind of paying jobs. You could have a lot of intelligence or no intelligence whatsoever and you would still remain in the same bracket as your parents. But if you have perfect social mobility, if I could grant you perfect social mobility now, then within one generation, nearly everybody who was earning higher incomes would be more intelligent and more motivated, and all these parents of these disadvantaged children would almost exclusively be parents of low intelligence and parents of low motivation. Can you see the issue here? That if you reach this utopia that they are talking about, where disadvantaged children perform just as well as children who are not disadvantaged, what that should actually do is give us real cause for concern, because what that indicates is that must be a very, very low level of social mobility, because it's trapping people from poorer backgrounds who are very, very intelligent and very, very motivated into remaining in those backgrounds and representing the poorest of parents, but uplifting their children, of course, because they're motivated to spend time, as I spend time with my child, trying to make him understand the world around him, trying to make him think things, using my intelligence to pass that on to him, and using my motivations in the sphere of parenting to try and uplift him as a child and make him maximise his potential. These seem to be two claims that cannot sit together. The more you wish to champion social mobility, I propose, the harder it is to square this circle with regard to advantaged and disadvantaged children achieving the same within the school environment. How refreshing it would have been to have seen the BBC maybe have a discussion on the friction between these two purported goals, rather than doing what they do, which is to do an article one day about one goal, do an article the other day about another goal and at no point discuss the fact that these are two goals that really aren't sitting alongside each other very well. In fact, quite the opposite. Okay, interested to know what you think about this one. Thank you for watching. Bye.